Hello, everyone. Welcome to this live session that we are broadcasting from Europe. We are happy to be with you. And we are going to host this session with Andrea Bentschneider that you already know. This is actually the third of this series that we are broadcasting about German records. We are super excited to be again with all of you, and we are going to start right now. And let's welcome Andrea on the stage, on this virtual stage. Hi, Andrea.
Hello, Marco. Thank you so much. And I see we already have the first people joining us from all over the world. So thanks again for giving me this opportunity. And yes, this is the third session outside of Roots Tech this year so far. We have 3 more sessions scheduled. I will show you the tentative dates at the end, like or a little bit later on. And it would be great if you just wrote into the chat where you're joining us from. That's always great to see where everybody's coming from. And thank you for taking the time to be with us here today. You also have a chance, I know that one of the things is we try to obviously accommodate as many people as possible. So it would also be great if you could tell us if you have a specific day or a specific time that works best for you. So we would the next 3 sessions we will have on different days in the week just to see what works for everybody. And again, thank you, Marco, for the introduction. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have relating to German genealogy. And actually, before I start my little presentation, because today's topic is the German civil records, last time we spoke about the church books. I promised someone a question that I couldn't answer last time, and I promised that I would answer this question this time. And the question was, maybe Marco, you can pull this up.
Exactly.
Yes. Where would I find mid-1800s Catholic church records from Königsberg? Königsberg in East Prussia, nowadays in Russia. And the great thing is very easy. You go to Family Search because they do have those records available online and you can search them on Family Search. So good luck and lots of fun. And I hope that you find your ancestors there.
That's great. So now we are gonna have a moment. We're gonna leave the time to Andrea to give us a little presentation, and afterwards be prepared with your questions because Andrea will be there for you to answer all of your questions. But let's give you the time now for your presentation, please.
Mm-hmm. Good. Wonderful. I hope you can see this. Yeah, again, it's this last time, 2 months ago, I spoke about immigration records. Last month, I spoke about the church records. And when it comes to genealogy in Germany, civil records are then the most important type of record when you want to when you want to research your ancestors in more recent times. Because let me see that we get so. Because as I said last time, the church books, they began in 1510 approximately. That's the oldest church book that exists in Germany. And I mentioned that the genealogy, the civil records, began in October 1874, respectively January 1876. That is just correct if you look at a more general approach with that. If you're looking at a more at a real dates, because they are always, as usual, there's always exceptions to the rule. So we had in Germany, actually, due to the French occupation, as a result of the French Revolution, there were some areas in Germany, like those on the left bank of the Rhine River, they were occupied almost immediately by the French troops. So the French type of record keeping, civil records, began in 1798 already. And that kind of keeping these records were kept up all the way until the 1875. Other areas like Westphalia, the right bank of the Rhine River, even Hamburg, we were like the north of Germany, various areas of Germany that were occupied by the French. They also, at least temporarily, had these types of French civil records. And Hamburg then in 1866 was like kind of a pre-version of how we know the civil records today. In Baden, in the Grand Duchy in Baden in southwest Germany, the civil records began in February 1870. Now we come to the two dates I mentioned last time, and that was October 1st, 1874 is the date for all the Prussian territories. And then January 1st, 1876 is for the rest of the German Empire and everything that we know to be Germany today. So, and while the church books were there to record the religious events like a baptism, the wedding, and the burial, these civil records really were official legal documents, and it was just all about recording every birth, every marriage, every death, regardless of denominations. They were, with the exception of these times when I showed you during French occupancy, most of these records were always in German, and throughout the time and in different areas of Germany, the content varies slightly depending on the laws that were binding at that time. Like, let's say in the 1930s and 40s, there were different content in like other information collected than at other times. And I'm going to show you a few of these examples, like that you get an idea what they look at or what they look like. And so you basically, they always have like generally the same information. You have the birth record, which basically gives you the name of the parents, when and where a child was born at the time, and at the end it says like the name of the child. And then in the marriage record, oops, there's the E moved across, sorry about that. That usually they were always 2 pages, and because you started out with the information of the groom, then followed by the information of the bride, on the, like with his name, his profession, where he was born, information of his parents. Then the same for her, like with her parents, etc. Here you have the witnesses. Then you have this legal text, like that they swore to the local law and promised that it was all okay. And then the civil registrar declared everything was okay and they were married now. And so then you have the signatures here, and that's basically it. And then in the death record, again, it's just like 1 page, and there again, it says like the person who died, it says like where the person lived, where the person died, and like with date and time. And if there's any information like of a parent, a spouse, or something might be in there as well. And in Germany, of course, we do have our personal data protection laws. So basically, these records were are created at the local civil registry office. And then until the end of 2008, it was basically hardly anyone had access to them. And you only had access to them if you could prove a legal interest or a direct relationship. And I talk about this on the next slide. And then in 2009, thank God, they softened these rules. And so now it is that basically all birth certificates that all births that took place over more than 110 years ago, they are available to the public without any restrictions. You do not need to prove that you're related to them. You do not need to prove that you have a legal interest, like an inheritance or like some other kind of legal matter that where you need to prove that. For marriages, it is 80 years, and for death records, it is 30 years. So basically what it means that always at the end of the year, all these civil registry officers give their books and hand them over to an archive, basically. And then it takes usually until like springtime until the archives have these books in their system, so that you can find them, that you can order them, and usually by April, May, you have access to these new books. And that's why, yes, of course, you're right. And today we would say, like, if I was looking for a birth that took place on June 4th in 1914, of course, I technically should have access to that. However, this birth is in a book that covers all births between January and the end of the year. And so that's why it's sometimes difficult to get access to these records, because they say, well, but everything that happened, like every birth that happened after, let's say, June 10th, would still be restricted technically until then. So that's why basically you can get access to all births that are from 1913 and before, all marriages from 1943 and before, and all deaths from 1993 and before. Again, if you're looking for a birth or a marriage or a death that is after this period, then comes in this legal interest or the relationship. And so what it means with the legal interest, you need to have a paper by, like, if it's about an inheritance, it could be from a document by the court, it could be from a notary public or a lawyer, or heirs that can prove that they have an interest and need access to this document to solve some legal matter. And otherwise you have like the direct relationship, and that includes like the parents and the grandparents. Also children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren can have access to this, as well as siblings. And with that, I can also answer a question that I received by email while I'm at this. Respectively, I will look into that and answer that after I'm done here. And because that was a question that really goes directly into this situation of how do I get access to this. In German civil records, it's all like you have certain important terms in there, like that help you also get the information that you need, or respectively if you want to order copies. So first of all, there are often notes in the margins, and these are usually information of events that took place afterwards. Like on a marriage certificate, it could be that you find like a marginal note that says that, for example, the husband has died, or that the marriage was divorced, or similar. Or you can also have information about children that were born into this marriage, or if the marriage was divorced and one of the partners remarried, or if one of them again died. In birth certificates, you sometimes have the information when this person then later on died, etc. So marginal notes are often of interest. Some civil registry offices cover them and refuse to give it out, because then if you technically have on a marriage certificate, you have information about children that were born and that wasn't within these 110 years. So that's why they may cover this up. Another important word for you to know is the word Sammelakte or collection file. It's a bad translation, but usually it is like, if, for example, when you get married, you go to the civil registry office and you need to present your birth certificates. And you also need, like in Germany, you need to present your parents, like bride and groom's parents' marriage certificates, respectively family books. And so all these information, like, and if a marriage should be dissolved in divorce, then the divorce document may go into this. And all these documents are collected and put together into a file, which is then referred to as the Sammelakte. So particularly if you do inheritance research, but also for genealogy research, it may be great to look if these Sammelakten still exist. Unfortunately, many archives do not keep them for reasons that they don't have the staff or the space to keep all of that and to manage all of these documents. So unfortunately, many archives got rid of these documents, which is a shame. Another also important reason for why you have that is like that, particularly if a child was born illegitimately, you can request a special document which is called a certificate of descent. And so sometimes you do have then the father like listed in there. It's not always the case, but it's like, again, in paternity cases, or if it is important and one good source to make sure that that is very looked into. And then last but not least, usually when you order a copy of a certificate of a civil record or a civil certificate, you usually be asked if you want it certified or non-certified. Certified is usually always important if you have a legal, if it's like for legal research. Some civil registry offices only offer certified copies. Usually it's a little bit more expensive than a non-certified copy, but normally like a non-certified copy of a record is enough if you just do normal genealogy. You're just happy that you get the record. And the other tip is always make sure to request a copy of the original record. Otherwise, then they just take the information, put this into a modern form, and then you hardly have any of the information in there, so that you don't have the nice signatures or any of the things that make the charm of these original old documents. So, and then the questions is like, some records, some archives, some registries have their records online, those that are outside of these protection periods. It's worth checking Family Search. I know they work with few archives here in Germany. Also some municipal, so city or district archives, as well as state archives, do start putting digital images of the civil records online. Some only have the name indexes, but then you can order fairly easily a copy of the real document that you're looking for. So that's always worth looking into. Otherwise, obviously, both Ancestry and MyHeritage do have also copies or collections of civil records, and both of them are subscription services. And in case of Ancestry, be aware that you do need the international subscription service, otherwise you will not get access to the German records. And as always, with all the any source that you have in German genealogy, and I think you cannot say it often enough, it is always important, if you look at it, who recorded it and when was it recorded? Was it someone who was present at the event, or did someone else talk about it? Also, did you check the original source? That also goes for the certificates. Like many times in many of these online platforms, you just have the information that give you a hint to a record, but the actual record is not displayed or not available to look at. So always make sure to also look at the original record to see if the information provided is correct. And then also, just because a certain document does not exist, it's always worth checking. It's like, is the source or is the collection complete, or is there maybe, did they lose, let's say, 20% of all the books due to a fire or something like that? So just because something isn't there doesn't mean that it was never there. So it may just have gotten lost over time. So with that, I just come to 1 or 2 housekeeping notes. And the one thing is, I promised you new dates for upcoming Q&A sessions. We're still working on some topics. I have a few ideas, like one is probably going to be about names. And we, again, try to look at different dates to make it interesting and to see like who's what works best. So we have like tentatively, and again there will be announcements and you will hear about this again. There like we have July 25th, we have August 24th, which is a Saturday, this is a Thursday, and then a Tuesday evening on September 24th. So we also go half an hour later, so to accommodate hopefully more of you to be able to join us. And I'm not sure if I need to introduce myself really that much. I am a professional genealogist and turned my hobby into a profession 20 years ago. Actually, the 20th anniversary is on July 1st. If you do need assistance with your research, have questions, please don't hesitate to contact my team or I. Also sign up for the newsletter, because that's where you definitely will hear about the new dates, or follow us. Feel free to take a copy and like make a photo of the slide. And also, as I announced last time already, I'm working on something which is more about like supporting you and doing your own German genealogy. And that's going to be the German Genealogy Collective, where like it's going to be starting soon. Also, make sure you can sign up for the waitlist to stay up to date. I will also make announcement about these Q&A sessions there. So again, I look forward to seeing many of you there. And with that, I complete the presentation for now and look forward to answering any questions that you may have. And I see there's someone from Dallas joined us. Oh, London,
Yeah.
Wonderful, great.
We have people from across the world. So let's go in order. The first question that I would take is this from Annegret. I hope I pronounced right your name, from the UCL Library in London. So she's asking that she would like to learn from you where I can find records of some of my ancestors who were born in Pomerania at about 1905.
Yes.
And she keeps the typing something. Can I still find younger church records that are at Greifswald, or where can I find birth and marriage records from Pomerania?
Okay. Those records are actually one step back. The State Archive in Greifswald is closed this year because they're renovating the research room. And usually if they say we're closed for 1 year, then usually it takes longer than that. However, they also do not have, like there is a church archive in Greifswald, that's correct. The State Archive in Greifswald, that is closed for this year. However, I know that on Archeon, that's, let me pull up, I just do a blank sheet here and then share that. Hang on, as I type. Where do I have that? Hang on, we do that. And then I type on here. That's on Archeon. If it's, can you see that? Yeah, wonderful. Let me just make this a little bit bigger and everybody can see that. So Archeon is the website where the Lutheran church books are published and digitized and put online more and more. Every week they add 500 new church books. And I know, like, basically in Berlin is a central archive which houses all the church books from the former eastern provinces like East Prussia, but also Pomerania. So you would look under that collection, and there with those records, they are pretty good already. If it is in the German part of Pomerania, that's when the Greifswald archive would come in, but that too, these records are being put up also slowly but steadily. So it's always worth coming back, just like as I mentioned, just because something that isn't there doesn't mean that it's not going to come up. So you need some patience probably. So, and always come back and check as more and more sources are being digitized and are being put online on a daily and weekly basis. So that's the place to check there. Also look at Family Search, but since you're there already, it's probably, otherwise Family Search is always a good place to start as well.
Perfect. So now we have a question from D. Miller from Dallas, Texas. And she's asking, where would I write to or find civil records for Mannheim, Germany from 1904 to 1905?
Okay, wonderful. I usually start always contacting the actual civil records office, because sometimes they keep them in-house and have their own archive. Sometimes they hand them over to a city archive, a district archive, or a state archive. And usually they know best where these records are and who's like and whom to contact next. So that's I usually always start in with the civil registry office. And again, it's like if it's a birth, marriage, or death record, they are free and you should have access easily.
Okay. We have a question from Anna. She says, I'm looking for the birth of Louis Drachmann, emigrated on 21st July 1884 from Hamburg to Chile. His father is Karl Adolf Bernhard Drachmann and Anna Schacht from Bergstedt. Where do I look?
Wonderful. I have ancestors from Bergstedt also, so we're almost related, kind of. Wonderful. So these records are actually located at the Hamburg State Archive. They were filmed by Ancestry, and they should be available on Ancestry if you find them there. And depending on if Louis was born on after July 1st, 1876. If he was born before 1876, then these records would still be at the Hamburg State Archive, but they are not available online. They only can be researched at the archive directly.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have more questions. They are coming up. I don't have a name here. It says LML. So he's or he is saying, I'm looking for civil records from the 1880s in either the Stadt or Hamburg area. Would they be online anywhere? The husband was from Hammer and the wife was from Hamburg.
Okay, I'm not sure what Hammer is going to be. I don't know a place with that. Stade and Hamburg is the challenge is you do need to know the exact place where they lived. Because like if it's just the Hamburg area, and the Stade is not that far away from Hamburg, but there are too many places in between, and we don't have a real central location where you would know that. So I like Himmelpforten. Okay, I understand. I see like a few comments later is that Hammer is a village near Himmelpforten, near Stade. Okay, I understand. Then I would look in that area, and I would almost think that Stade would the archive in Stade would house these old civil records from the 1880s. That's worth contacting them. Like for Hamburg, again, I know they are online. For Stade, I think they're not online. Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Christina Bradolf is writing us. She's asking for church records in Celle, Saxon,
Mhm.
sorry, my pronunciation. Would the civil records be most likely in
Great.
Hanover? Not on Archeon yet. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. So church records and civil records are two complete different things. Again, church records, well, civil records begin like to do the general version 1876, at least like also for the Lower Saxony, Niedersachsen time. And church records are like going back in time with some luck until the 1650s, 1700s. Usually what the churches do is they give access to the church books up to the time when the civil records start in that area. Sometimes you get lucky and you get a church book up until the year 1900, but afterwards the churches get funny and they don't like to give you access to these records. So the church records are located, first of all, at the church in Celle, and there's also copies of these records are in at the Genealogical Society in Hanover. They received all the microfiche with all the church records from the former Lower Saxon Church Archive. So they can be requested at the Genealogical Society in Hanover. The civil records, again, they would not be in Hanover. The civil records for Celle are in Celle at the Civil Registry Office in Celle, basically. And then they may have a town archive where they then would hand over those older records potentially. And Archeon is coming back to the church records. Yes, Archeon is slowly but steadily putting these online, because the challenge in Germany is the church, the old parishes have to pay for the digitization. And all of them also can decide if they want to participate in Archeon and if they want to have their records up on Archeon. I know, for example, in the Oldenburg area, there are 2 out of the, I don't know how many, 80, 100 parishes in that area that decided we do not put our records online. So all the church records for Oldenburg are online, with the exception of 1 or 2 parishes there. And so again, it's like it's up to each parish to decide whether they want to participate in Archeon. And again, it's like we're talking about thousands and probably millions of church books in Germany, and so it does take time. Again, they have an average of 300, 500 books that they add every week. So just keep coming back. I know they're adding church books for Lower Saxony.
Thank you. Okay, I'm retrieving some other questions from other chats, and somebody's asking, where can I find civil records of formerly East Germany?
It's basically, it's the same way as it is in West Germany. So I would again look at, like, start in the town where someone was born, and it was the same way, basically. So you start looking like also which town or which community is responsible for that area. Sometimes, like if you have a city, it's obviously easier. If you have smaller villages or so, they usually there was like the next biggest city then was in charge, and they recorded these civil records, and so it's a little bit about doing a little bit of research there and looking around. Yeah.
Okay. Anna, that we replied to her question before, she's thanking you. And also she's asking another question, asking, do they have an, okay, I'm not sure I can pronounce that one.
It's
Okay.
okay, wonderful. An Ortssippenbuch is, I guess, like the translation would be a family heritage book. And actually, I want to take that as a topic for one of the next sessions, to present that and to show what this is about. And she asked whether it's for the Stormann area. And Stormann is the name of like where Bergstedt and what we just talked about. It's a little bit northeast of Hamburg. And again, like my ancestors come from there and I grew up in that area, so I'm very familiar with that. And there is a website online, and let me, I will type it. I think it's, oops, here we are. See, and that's where that should be the name of it. I need to verify it. I hope I'm correct with that. And there you have it. It isn't really an Ortssippenbuch, but it's like a very passionate researcher who lives like north of Hamburg, and he spent like the last 20 years collecting all information from the church books in that area, and he basically put this onto a website. It's like it's a bit challenging. It's not really fashionable website, but you do get the information, and that's basically what's important about it. And so I'm just like, I will just try on the side if that's the correct name. Hang on. Yep, that's the title. With that, you should get to the website. Mm-hmm.
That's perfect. So I have another question. It says, am I allowed to get records from my aunts and uncles?
No, you're not, because you're not directly enough related to them. And that also brings me to the other question that I mentioned earlier, that we had received an email, and it was about the situation was a woman is trying to research her late husband's family. She obviously, as the wife, as the spouse, can get access to her husband's data. However, if it is about having her like researching her husband's family, she is not directly related to them. So what I suggested instead is like to ask to have children from that marriage provide like a letter of authorization and have them be the persons looking for these records and requesting these records, because again, as a child or grandchild or something, they would then be allowed to access these records. As a spouse, you're not. Like uncle and aunt, you're not. It's like when I requested my grandparents' marriage record, and that's again, I mentioned that some of these records are like with a like vary in style a little bit. My grandparents got married during World War II at a time when then children were entered with names into these marriage records also. And since besides my mother, my uncle was in that record also, I was denied a copy of my grandparents' marriage certificate. I then agreed with them that they would leave out this one page where their children, so my mother and my uncle, would be listed, and then they agreed to give me a copy of that certificate. And although it's available for free, and they were married in 1939, and so it is available, it is free. However, still there in Hamburg, the Civil Registry Office decided, no, we don't give this out.
Okay, that was a great question, great answer, because when you research abroad, it's not always easy to understand the dynamics that you have in a different country. So definitely very important to understand that. On a different note, somebody's asking, is the cause of death mentioned in a death record?
Not in the official death certificate. However, usually, and I mentioned these files with collection of documents. Sometimes there is like a document that it's like the declaration of death by the doctor, and that document states potentially the cause of death. On the official death certificate, you would not find it. If you then try to look for the accompanying burial record, there again, usually in the church record, you would find the cause of death normally. but not on the official document. And then again, it's like sometimes you had a good registrar who, like, I don't know, had the information or knew the family, and then you find a little remark with a pencil on the side which gives you a hint to like a possible last will that exists, and with a number, or like again the cause of death may be recorded on it. And yeah, unless, like, again, sorry, there are always a lot of exceptions to the rules. Like if it was something special, let's say a suicide, then there may be like additional information for it, and then this record would be kept in a collection of unnatural deaths. And that's usually if someone died of a murder, or if someone committed suicide, or also then could fall like bombing offers during bombing victims during the World War, and so that may be kept in a special collection.
Okay, thank you. So another question that we have is, where could civil records be found after the under protection years?
Okay, again, it always depends on also the size of the town or the area where it's at, and the system of the archives in that area. Usually it is that once these like 110 years period is complete, they would take the let's say at the end of this year, they take the birth records from 1914, take the book, and then you have a couple of choices. Either like in the Hanseatic city of Lübeck near the Baltic Sea, they keep the books themselves. They have their archive in the basement. So they just move the book to the basement. Other cities, it is in Hamburg, they all will be given to the state archive. So if you want to look at these older unrestricted documents, you go to the state archive in Hamburg. You have in other cities, again, like in the city of Kiel, for example, it's given to the city archive. And so that's why I usually like to, like, if I don't know how a certain town or area handles these things, I usually call the civil registry office, because I know they know what they're doing with their records. So that's where I find out where I can gain access to them.
Okay. We have another question about that is interesting for those that are researching from abroad. Will the civil registry office in Munich send the record to me by mail being in the USA?
Okay. There actually, what is my experience is, and again, it doesn't work with every civil registry office. If you do not need a certified copy, I know that more and more registry offices are able and willing to send you a scan of a document, so that you can order it, and they would be willing to send you a scan of the certificate that you want to have, which obviously for America is one of the better solutions, right? And I think Munich, like my experience with Munich is that I think they sent me scans, yes.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, I have a comment from a. Oh wait, there's D. Miller is messaging us again, and he's asking, where can I find all right to military records? My grandfather was a PA in Russia, released in the 1950s, but I don't know his unit. I have his health record in German and Russian, but no unit reference.
Okay, so he was a prisoner of war in Russia. The best place for that is all the records of the Russian prisoners of war were given to the German Red Cross in Munich. And so it's like contact the German Red Cross in Munich and inquire about that. As a grandson, you're allowed to gain access to that. That also goes for the civil other records that let me just like explain to you. It may be that you may like if you're requesting, let's say, a document for your grandfather, and that is within this restricted period, and you're allowed because you're a direct descendant, you're allowed to gain access. It may be that you are asked to prove your relationship. So what you usually would do is, in this case, you take a copy of your birth certificate, and then you would take a copy of your father or mother's birth certificate that's like, so that states that he, like your grandfather is her or his father. So you prove your relationship to your parents, and then whose ever father he was, and prove their relationship to them. And that way you can show I'm allowed to gain access. I have a personal right to do that. Again, it's like you would, like if you look for military records, you would ask for those in Berlin at the Federal Archive in Berlin. That's where they have the military records. That's where you would get information about the unit and everything. However, currently they are they have an index card system for every soldier that they have there, so they know where they served and in which unit, etc. they served. However, the actual records are currently being digitized and are not available. So if you send a request to the Federal Archive in Berlin currently, the information that you get back is not as detailed as it used to be. And because these records are not available. So you will find out in which unit they serve, but you don't have a lot of information on top of that. But if you want to find out about the imprisonment in Russia, there you would go and contact the German Red Cross in Munich. These records from Russia were given to them.
Okay. So somebody's asking about adoption. So my German dad was adopted by my American grandparents. Are there adoption files?
Yes, there are, and they are located at the family courts in those cities, in the city where the adoption took place. That's also something, usually that is an information that you would also have in this collected file that goes with the birth certificate. Particularly, you would have also information then about, usually with an adoption, there was a name change also involved. And that's information that you would get also at the civil registry office, where the birth of your dad was recorded. There will be, or there should be, I always had that the case in an adoption, there are more documents about this, like the name changes. There may be information about the adoption, as well as like when and where it took place. And then you would go and contact the local family court and request a copy of that. As the adopted person or a child of them, you have a right to gain access to that. However, as like the parent who gave up a child for adoption, you do not have any right to gain access to these documents or to be given any information about the whereabouts of your child.
Very interesting. Thank you. Now, this is a very specific question, but I think probably the answer will apply to other similar cases. So how do you know where and how to request civil records? I'm searching in what I believe is a small town on the western border, Zilsdorf, and I'm uncertain who to contact.
I would always this is what I would Google for. Standesamt is the German word for civil registry office. And so this is what I would Google for. In this case, I would Google Standesamt in Silsdorf. And then you get any information and get closer to it. A great tool to, like, if you use Google Translate, that's one thing I love. This tool for any kind of translations, you can translate websites with it or copy and paste text. It does it into every language, and I think this is just the most wonderful document tool there is. And so that's where I would go about. I would then also otherwise Google Silsdorf and see like where is that? Like what region is there? And then I would look like, is that a city itself, or is there a bigger city next to it? And then I would either, if I don't find the civil registry for Silsdorf immediately, but have a bigger city, I would try to contact, I look on a map and see what bigger cities is in this area. I would call like the administration, the city hall of the next bigger city, if it has to be, and ask around.
Okay.
Or send emails, yeah.
Perfect.
Or contact a local researcher in that area. Again, it's not, if you need any assistance, my team and I are happy to assist you, to help you.
Okay, we're going toward the conclusion. Let's take this last question. Where do I find a birth record from a German town which now belongs to Poland? In Poland or in Germany?
Probably both. So it depends a little bit on the time that you're talking about. The same as with church records, it was always like with civil records. It is that usually they were required to have a primary document and a secondary document. So that, and like the primary copy is stored at one place and the secondary copy is stored at another place, so that you always have like, that goes back to the times when churches burned down or similar. That's when they kept like an original church book, and at the end of the year they made a copy of their church book and had that located at a different place. And so it is that some of the civil records in Poland may be, again, depending on the time, may be given to a state archive in that region. They may still be at the civil registry office in Poland. And also in Berlin, there is the so-called Civil Registry Office 1. And that is where you have all the records for Germans which is like outside of Germany today. And they have all the civil records of the former German provinces, like these areas that are now in Poland, in Russia, in the Czech Republic, etc. And also, if a German citizen gets married in, let's say, Chile or in England, then technically there would be like that record would go to this archive. These records now, again, these that are outside of this restriction period, these records were given to the state archive in Berlin. Otherwise, those records still in the restriction, they are still at the Civil Registry Office 1 in Berlin. And some of these records are actually also filmed and put online on Ancestry, and you need the international subscription for that.
This is great. Okay, so we are going to conclude. And Andrea, what do you want to add? What our friends should be looking for the coming future?
Again, it's like we have 3 more dates set so far, as I mentioned before in the slides, and maybe you can put this online also. If you have any questions, feel free to contact my team or I, like if you want us to be assisting you with your research. And otherwise, if you want to like have more of this experience of getting tips and hands-on training, we're working on something in the background. It's called the German Genealogy Collective. We're looking at starting that soon, probably in early fall, and also join our mailing list and look for our social media postings. We keep you informed. And otherwise, we're already planning our visit to RootsTech for next year. So there's lots more to come, and there's obviously a lot of sources to look at in Germany, and it doesn't get boring.
Yeah, Andrea, thank you very much. As always, it has been a great session. Andrea, as many of you know, have been at RootsTech. We have said earlier many times. She had always a great following of hundreds of people wanting to learn more, and she's always so kind and willing to help. So please, before we end, remember that this session will stay on our channels. To know more about our future live sessions, please stay tuned on our Facebook channels, on our YouTube channel. You will see the next events coming up. And so save the date to make sure that you will be there live to ask your questions. But if you want to go back and watch this again, you will see them. You will see this live session on our channels, so that you will be able to go back and see all the information that Andrea is giving in her presentation, and her contact info and all of that. So, Andrea, thank you again. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you, Marco, for being such a gracious host and moderator here today and helping us with all the questions. Yeah.
You're welcome. Okay. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you for being with us.
Bye.
Until next time.